All right, he popped up in a few films in the 80s, was heard in a handful of video games in the 90s, returned to film in 2017 in The Boat Builder with Christopher Lloyd, and currently writes news commentary as well as hosts a political show available on YouTube called What the Hell Just Happened. Martin Ganapoler's first feature film role was Howard the Duck, and we are excited to discuss his time on the production as well as his intriguing career trajectory following the film. Martin, thank you very much for being here today.
You are welcome. A quick correction on the name pronunciation. It's Ganapoler, but you can call me anything you want.
I'm going to go with Ganapoler.
Yeah,
I've already got it. I had it right.
My real last name is Petlansky, so I feel your pain.
Okay. Thank you for the intro. Nice to meet you guys.
You as well. So we're going to just jump right into it. Was acting something you always aspired to do when you were younger or even as you gotten older, or is this something that just kind of happened?
Well, it was something that I did sort of naturally. Both my parents are actors, and as well as having day jobs, as most actors do. So I grew up in a house where, they were doing plays or they were doing play readings or what have you. My dad actually was a screen actor and fairly worked quite a bit. So it was something that I felt comfortable with, but I didn't pursue it as any kind of a career. My Uncle Perry, who was from New York, was also an actor in the 50s, and then he became a unit production manager and an AD for Kenneth Utt. I don't know if you know who that guy was, but they worked on a lot of movies like The French Connection and those kinds of movies. So I grew up.
I'm sorry. So he was involved with that. Like, isn't The French Connection where they shot the car chase like for real, like practically on the streets, and they didn't really like some of the cars that they're almost hitting and driving by were not a part of the production.
Yeah, actually, my
guerrilla
uncle was
filmmaking.
Totally. My uncle was the unit production manager for those sequences, and it was Billy Friedkin directing it, who was full speed ahead, damn the torpedoes, we're going to get the shot. And my uncle tried to lock down traffic, but it's New York City. It's like these people are like, yeah, fuck you, I'm driving through.
Yes.
And so, it was rough and ready filmmaking, guerrilla filmmaking, like you said. But yeah, pretty exciting stuff. So he did that, and I grew up in that. I wanted to be an academician. I studied in college. I studied anthropology and got my degree in that. But I'd always done acting ever since I was a kid. And it wasn't until I decided I wasn't going to pursue like anthropology as a career that I decided to go to acting school and give that a shot. So that's kind of how I came into it.
Awesome. And what led to getting the role in Howard the Duck?
Well, of course, this was a very, coveted role. First trucker. Many people competed for that. No, I mean, basically, once I got an agent, they were sending me on auditions. I had a type, and I had done the first paid gig I ever got was like a Stroh's beer commercial. So I've sort of already had this trucker look thing, and agent called me. I did an audition, as does I think almost every actor in San Francisco auditioned for that. Among other, every film in San Francisco, every actor auditions for it because we're not in LA where you're getting 3 auditions a day. I mean, you show up to audition. I guess the casting people liked me, and I looked like the right type, and so it really wasn't a big deal. They just said, "Yeah, you're cast. You got the part." And I was like thrilled. It was great.
I always find that so fascinating that we spend our whole lives at wanting to be an actor and acting, and then all of a sudden you find out sometimes you just got the right look. Like, I'm a model now. Yes, it's going on in the wrong business.
That's exactly it. I mean, if you fit the vision of the director or the producer, it doesn't matter whether you can act or not or whatever it is. I mean, it's helpful if you can. But if you look like the guy they had in their head, you're in.
Yeah, they'll make it work. Now, according to IMDb, which we know is ironclad.
Oh yeah.
Howard the Duck was your first film credit, but you like you said, you had actors in your family. Was this your first time on a true film big budget set or no?
No, it wasn't my first time on a big budget set. Yeah, like most actors, we start as extras, or we get to be second team, stand-ins. And I had done that stuff. So I'd been on sets before. This was the first time I had my own trailer, guys. I mean, this was, pretty cool stuff. So my name on the door, I had makeup people. I was like, I felt like an actor. So that was the first time for that experience. But I had been on sets before, and it's important, I think, as a young actor, for you to pay attention. If you get these kinds of gigs, hang out with the grips, with the electricians, with the camera crew, find out what filmmaking's about. And the more you know about that shit, the better you are as an actor, because now you know when, like, what's the frame? How is it being lit? What's the action? Where's the, various elements of filmmaking, a lot different than stage. So I'd sort of, hung out, studied it a little, and then Howard the Duck came along, and man, we were jazzed.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to say about knowing everything, all of the different aspects. Because we were talking to William Clark for Django Unchained, the AD, and he brought up Leonardo DiCaprio and why he's so good at what he does. Because like before that shot where they punch in on him and he has the cigarette, and he gives us the camera a smile, breaks the fourth wall. It's like he knew that he needed to have the cigarette held up right here. Like he understood the blocking and what the cinematographer was going for. It really, I mean, yeah, the more you know, the better.
Even that's not even a segue. I agree with both of you guys. You've heard me talk about this before, to where I say, being an actor, while I love doing that, is not enough in the life that we live. You, like you say, if you know how to do sound, if you know about writing, it's like you're on a golf course. You're not taking one club. The more clubs you have, the more successful you'll be.
Right.
You learn the lingo. And like I say, so I think that's very good advice. We always try to give advice back to our fans and our film students who look up to us for the things that we have to give to them. So thank you for that information. So question, how long were you on set for? Because you had this trailer. I know you didn't leave until the last moment. So, I mean,
hey. Well, on Howard the Duck, I was there for a little over 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
It was a long shoot. And, so it was exciting because this was a George Lucas production. There were going to be midgets in rubber suits. It was a Marvel comic franchise.
The first one.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes, David, it was.
Thank you for recognizing that. And so I mean, we were all thinking, when this is a hit, we will have an open career path. So it was pretty exciting. 3 weeks, 3+ weeks.
Awesome. Now, is there, when like we read about the movie, see a lot of commentary videos about it, there's always stories about how it was like a troubled production, or there's different stories. Did you experience anything like that during your time there?
Well,
or like any inclination that it would be damned?
Well, it's a funny thing. These kind of big budget sets, there's a lot of support. There isn't. You don't get to dissent from the director, writer, producer's viewpoint. You're shooting scenes. You're there to do a professional job. People are very supportive and high on what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, working with Willard and Gloria, these guys, this was sort of a vanity project for them, because I think they had written one of the Indiana Jones, right? So basically, they're like, okay, guys, you can do whatever you want. They were pretty insulated in terms of, is this any good? Those of us who were there noticed that there was kind of like, a guy in a rubber suit. I mean, is this really working? Is this concept even accessible? Is it funny? Is it dramatic? Is it sci-fi? What is it? So there was kind of an overtone of feeling, as a youngish actor on set. I just, did my job and got all excited and looked at it as a challenge and thought, hey, these guys know what they're doing. I'm just this newbie, let them have at it.
apparently a lot happens in post-production, and it's going to be all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I totally get that. That when you're in like in the thick of a project, and it's something that, and like the last guest we talked to said, nobody sets out to make a bad movie, and and it's and then when you're working on something, and there is kind of like this collective high that everybody gets into, and it's necessary to get a movie done, to be on that kind of high that the whole crew, cast and crew, gets swept into. I don't think movies would get completed if people weren't swept into that energy.
Yeah.
So I totally understand. I mean, I felt amazing about Turn that I made in 2004, and it makes me sick to my stomach to watch now. And this is a movie that I at the time was like, this is amazing, this is the best thing ever. And then, you know, hindsight is amazing sometimes.
It's revisionist history.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you have a favorite memory from the production?
Well, I mean, it was really an amazing experience for me, in the sense of, they built this set, this cafe, and they built it on a gimbal so that they could tilt it. And all of the stuff in the set would rush to one wall, because when the Dark Overlord guy was doing his thing, I'd never been on anything like that before. So, and it was also the first time, and maybe the only time, I don't remember, that I got called upon to do stunt work. So this is an interesting deal, because, I don't know if you guys work with stunt performers a lot, or if you have that kind of experience. But so I come on the set, and Everett Creech, who's this old stunt coordinator who's like from westerns and stuff like that, he comes up and he throws his arm around me. He's like, "Kid, we're gonna have you do some stunt work here. Are you up for that?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." You don't say no. You're like, "Yeah, give it to me. I want stunt work." And so they started to outfit me for these stunts that I was going to have to do. And as I'm doing that, he throws me in with the stunt crew, right? So all these old grizzled stunt performers and coordinators and stuff like that. And while you're waiting with these guys, they're like, "Hey, you want to play liar's poker?" I was like, "Sure, what's that?" And they're like, "Oh, great. You have any single dollar bills on you?" I was like, "Sure, I got a few in my pocket here." So they're teaching me how to play liar's poker, and I keep losing. I'm like, what? How the fuck? Why am I losing dollar after dollar to these stunt guys? And it turns out it's kind of a thing that they do with newbies. They bring dollars that already have a lot of winning numbers. So they know they have stacked the odds, and they're just waiting for some chump like me to come along and to take me for every single dollar bill I have. That's really a great memory for me, was being initiated by these guys. At the end of it, at the end of doing the scene work, they said, "Hey, congratulations, you did good, and bad guys always get work." I was like, "Oh man, that's fantastic." So that was kind of a thing that stood out for me, and just working on that set with these really amazing actors, watching all the special effects stuff go down, and jumping over counters. And as you guys know, if you've seen the movie, I actually took a pie in the face from the duck. Now, if you're doing comedy and you haven't taken a pie in the face, you really haven't been
right
there yet.
Right.
Yeah. That's great.
That was a memory. And then, of course, because it's film, once you take the pie in the face, the makeup guys for the next week have to apply the pie to your face so that you match every day.
It's the little things that people that have not had any experience in making a movie, they will never appreciate.
They're like, your blush is good, but you can't get your pie right. You're never going to make it in this industry. It's like
the fact you think it's all like, you think it's all happening real time. Like, oh, we got the pie in the face, they wiped it off, scene over. Like, they're not considering the team of makeup artists that are matching the pie on a daily basis.
Let me ask you this, because we asked a few of our guests this here. With all of the recycling of the old ideas and intellectual properties, do you think Howard the Duck should get a remake treatment? And if so, what would you do different if there was a remake to it?
You know that my honest answer is no. I don't think they should remake Howard the Duck.
There you go. Yeah, I hate remakes. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, it's just like, why reinvent the square wheel? It didn't work. There's a reason it didn't work. And I think we moved along technologically where you could make that film, but I don't really see the impetus, So no, sorry guys, nope, I wouldn't do it.
I think I'd rather see Gizmo Duck first before I see another Howard the Duck.
I agree that, I mean, it's and as much hate and flack as the original gets, it has lived on now to become something that's cherished by people that grew up with it, and then they're showing it to their kids and they're appreciating it for what it is. And there are bad movies out there, sure, but this one, at least, it entertains you, and you can tell that there's some heart in it.
I call it a time capsule film. If you shot off a time capsule, you'd have to put Howard the Duck in there.
Yeah, the Earl.
Okay. I would.
Yeah,
I'd say cool the only film. Not the only film, but one of them.
Yeah.
That is the only film where I got asked for my autograph by teenage kids. That's pretty cool.
And you got a trailer. Come on, man. I'm telling you, man.
TTFT.
That's literally. I need.
No, that's the fucking trailer.
Yes.
What's the most valuable lesson that you learned from that production?
The most valuable lesson I learned is that there is a shit ton of money spent on movies, on making films. And it doesn't matter if it's a piece of crap movie or it's a magnificently realized piece of art. The money that goes into it means that everybody who's there is doing their level professional best. They're bringing their A game, and it doesn't matter. So if you're making a movie, you don't waste anybody's time. You don't waste anybody's money. It's not an option for you. And I think that's the biggest lesson as a movie actor that you can bring to the set.
I think that's something most aspiring filmmakers need to hear, because they think like they see like their favorite stars and they think they're just living this life of fun, and that it's like the fun job to have. And sure, it's fun if it's what you love to do, but it is serious work that should be taken seriously.
Especially with people's time. They say time is the only thing we never get back. So I mean, like, truly never get back.
Mm-hmm.
No, I said it wrong. No amount of money ever bought a second of time.
You cannot cheat Father Crime Time.
And there you go. Is there anything else you'd like to share about Howard the Duck, the film? Anything at all that you think fans of the film may want to know, or they never knew? Anything obscure? Anything like that?
Well, yeah, in the cafe scene, and by the way, the mantle clock may go off, so don't be surprised. For whom the clock bell tolls, it might toll for thee. The cafe scene that I was in was actually a Cajun sushi restaurant, and somewhere in my archives, in a plastic box somewhere, I still have the menu from the Howard the Duck Cajun sushi place. It's an obscure little trivia fact, but if you look carefully in that scene, you will see somehow an identification that it's Cajun sushi, which is actually kind of pretty ahead of its time if you think about it.
Yeah,
it is fusion restaurant.
Yeah. Fusion, exactly.
I like that. I like that.
That's awesome. After Howard the Duck, you played a reporter in the Deadpool with Clint Eastwood coming back again.
Yes.
Liam Neeson, and also Jim, or as he went by back then, James Carey.
Mm-hmm.
The Deadpool was directed by Buddy Van Horn, who recently passed away on May 11th at the age of 92. I was wondering if you had any stories from that production or Buddy that you'd like to share.
Well, I didn't interact too much with Buddy because this was, again, these location shots are run essentially by first and second ADs. Mm-hmm. So, Buddy would sit, in his little tent and watch the video playback, and the first and second ADs would wrangle us and corral us. This was on Treasure Island. I was in the champagne shot, so it was the last scene of the movie, and working with Clint Eastwood. I mean, it was really an exciting deal because I'm actually, and here's the trivia question for you guys. If you want to make money at the bar, here's the one. You ask people, who was the last actor to have any dialogue with Dirty Harry Callahan in any Dirty Harry film? And that would be moi. So I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that that was going to be like something that, I could use to make money in bars. But I was pretty excited about working with him. We're on the pier. It's Treasure Island. It's night. And they're doing helicopter shots. And so the helicopters are coming in low and slow and right over us. And I kept thinking, this was, I think, not very long after Vic Morrow got killed by a helicopter while shooting a film. And so the thing that was freaking me out was like, I wonder if this helicopter is going to land on us and kill us because of the Vic Morrow thing. So that was one thing that sort of impressed me at the moment. What I didn't realize is as I'm doing this action sequence and my driver drives me up to the scene and I jump out of the car with my microphone and I go up to Dirty Harry and I start interviewing him. I'm so excited and I got so much adrenaline going that my vocal register is about half of a octave higher than normal. So as I watched the film afterwards, I'm like, why am I talking like I just inhaled helium? Yeah. Anyway, it was a funny thing. But so here's the funny story about the Deadpool, the champagne shot. All of us are gathered after the cut and the wrap, right? And everyone's feeling pretty good about this. I think Clint probably knew. Clint, I can call him that. Mr. Eastwood probably knew that. Actually, he liked to be called Clint. He did not want you to call him Mr. Eastwood.
That's my dad's name. I get to see good old boy like him.
So yeah, I mean, and he was actually, when we sat down to dinner and stuff, he sat with us. He didn't go to his trailer. He was totally a mellow guy. I asked him how I did in the scene. He's like, "You're a good kid. You're good." I was like, "Okay, great." So after that scene was finished, the San Francisco Police Department awarded him with a .357 Magnum gun in a wooden box as a token of their esteem. And he brought a lot of good press to the San Francisco Police Department. And a lot of those guys were on the set as advisors as well as actors. So there's about 120 of us on the pier. And Clint receives this pistol and he's like jazzed. He loves it. And he opens the box and he takes the gun out and he immediately covers the crowd. Well, okay, every cop on the set hits the deck. They're fucking flat, right? And all the rest of us schmucks are standing there like as, basically Dirty Harry is pointing us. Now, I don't know if you have to assume that every gun is loaded and you never point a gun at someone unless you're willing to kill them. Now, the cops knew this, so that's why they hit the deck. But, Clint, not so much. So that was kind of a indelible moment.
So Dirty Harry can't go to jail, but Clint Eastwood can. I just want to make it very clear.
All right, that would have been changed the whole trajectory of his career. Like that one, right? Actor goes postal on set.
You feeling lucky, Pump?
Yeah.
Yeah, if he'd squeezed one off, I think that would have changed things.
Yes, Pop. That was now that's an amazing story. I love that one. Let me ask you this. After the Deadpool in 1988, you would not return until 2017 with The Boat Builder. Now we'll get into that as well as voice acting video games in the 90s, which I definitely have a question about. But typically when we interview someone, a majority of their life is largely accounted for on IMDb, which can always be trusted. But you're somewhat of an enigma wrapped inside a Rubik's Cube. So our curiosity is piqued here. Who is Martin beyond acting?
Well, beyond acting, of course, like almost all the actors, you have to have day gigs of various different types. So I started a picture frame shop in San Francisco, because not that I knew anything about picture framing, I didn't. But I wanted to work with my hands without getting them dirty. And so I sort of started that as an entrepreneurial deal, and I worked on that for many years. And in fact, some of the movie projects that I did get cast on, the money went into the picture frame shop. As well, I also ended up doing, in that interim between, up until 2017, pardon me, I did a lot of corporate entertainment, which is acting, but I also did communications consulting for, middle management and upper management and C-suite guys. And so I would get hired to help these guys deliver their initiatives, their messages, their threats and promises and all that kind of thing. And I did that for about 7 years as well. So, I mean, these are kind of day jobs, but I will say this, I'm blessed, because in my entire life, my whole adult life, I never had an office job. I never, came in the morning at 9, went to the office, clocked out, and went home. For my whole life, I was able to do the other kind of work.
Hyperventilating over here.
We tell stories about men like you. I mean, I'm telling you, man, that is one day, man, one day. Now, don't you're not. We do our research here now. You're not going to get away with this. We read something about you being somewhat of a musician.
Well, I'm a musician in the sense of I can play guitar and I can sing, and I'm relatively capable at those tasks. But I grew up with a lot of really good musicians, and when I would sit and play with these guys, I'd go, "Fuck, you are not a musician. You cannot." So I didn't try to compete with them or try to make a living at it. But however, I used my musical skills in acting, and for about 8 or 9 years, I wrote and performed musical and sketch comedy for corporations. And this took me all over the world. I mean, I was in Cannes, and I was in Monte Carlo and Nice, and the Canary Islands and Hawaii and all these other places. And we do music. We do musical parodies, and which I would write and perform. So I use these skills, but only in the context of making fun of certain genres. I would never say, "Oh yes, I'm a serious musician, and I think I should be recorded."
Okay, but with that
That's
being
something
said,
I would do.
one thing you can say is that you're a serious voice actor, and I always have a question about this, because when I first, of all people think when you say, "Hey, listen, you have a great voice," they think that's the key to just voice acting, and it's clearly not. But I will ask you this: I've read online, and I don't agree with the philosophy. Some people say that you have, just like in a film, and you're an actor, you need a director. But to me, voice is something that's personal. While someone can give you an interpretation of what they want you to do, it's still ultimately you, and you bringing that character to life from your voice. So could you speak to that for a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is accurate in terms of it's more of an actor's medium, in the sense of it's very intimate, because it's really just you and the microphone, and you're in the booth. The directors that I've worked with on these projects, and a lot of them were good, they were very creative guys and women. What they would do is, knowing what it was supposed to look and feel and sound like, they would give you direction on how to take that line or how to deliver that word. And as a voice actor, it's fantastic, because you're not on stage, so it's not just a one-shot deal. If you blow it, too bad. You're not in a film circumstance where the camera's on you, and if you blow it, it's another take, and that's another $1,000, and don't be an asshole. But you're in this little booth with this microphone in front of you and a script, and hopefully there's a picture of the character that you are portraying to give you some sort of visual. And so you're doing 10, 15, 20 takes of each line or each word that you do. And the director might be kibitzing you a little, give you a nuance here, a nuance there. So it's a really kind of an interesting experience, and it's definitely, you got to be on your game. If you're doing 3 or 4 voices in a single project, and you're doing 20 or 30 takes of each line, and you're supposed to be developing different nuances, it's demanding. It is not an easy gig. You know, The Simpsons, these guys, you know, they get paid a lot of money to be in the sound booth, but they are bringing incredible amounts of talent and incredible amounts of experience to putting these characters out there. Don't think it's an easy gig. It's not an easy gig.
I watched the making of Rick and Morty, and the same guy, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head now, but he does the voice of both Rick and Morty. I don't know if you ever saw the show, but they do some back and forth to each other. They're practically talking over each other sometimes, feeding each other jokes, and it's both him. He's doing both of them. And I thought, okay, he's going in, he's doing Rick, he's going in and doing Morty. He goes in and he's like, he has a full conversation with himself in 2 different voices on the microphone. And it's just astounding to watch.
Wow.
Which brings me to an anecdote, if you've got a minute, about voice work.
Yeah, please.
May I be indulged?
Yes.
So I did Toshinden 2. Now, Toshinden was this huge game in Japan. It was like as big as any movie in Japan. So when they wanted to bring it to the English-speaking audience, I think it was Sony. I don't remember what it was. It was a Japanese company. So these casting guys are like, "Can you do Japanese accent?" I was like, "Yeah, I can do it. I can do a Japanese accent." I said, "Why don't you guys just hire a Japanese actor?" And they're like, "Oh no, you can't understand the Japanese. They don't speak English very well." I said, "Okay." So I had to do the older and younger brother, right? The Toshinden had 2 brothers that are these swordsmen and stuff like that. So I actually had a similar thing to what you just described. I was having dialogue with myself. And yes, you're right. You do one voice, you do all the parts. Then you do the other voice, you do all the parts. And you keep the pictures in front of you so that you have a visual reference. It's super important. It's like a mask or wardrobe. You tune into it. So anyway, that's just an anecdote about that particular gig.
Have you played? You're also in Pandemonium 1 and 2, the
Right.
games. Have you played any of the games that you're in?
No, haven't played that. I think that was PlayStation. I was more of a Nintendo guy. So
Didn't you see Pee Wee Herman? Didn't you see Pee Wee Herman? You're not going to stay for the end? I've lived it, Dottie.
I just think it'd be so interesting to like, most people when they play a video game, they have to imagine themselves as the character they're playing.
He is actually that guy.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that. That's awesome.
No, I'm playing me. I mean, no, it's me.
You guys could be a video game.
Thank you. Thank you. You have to voice both of us, though. That's the only way we're doing it.
Well, I won't go there this minute, but it's possible to do that.
Okay.
I don't think he'd get in any trouble for doing my voice. But,
no, I think he would. My voice is the voice he can do. He already has his melodious voice. Me and him on the same wavelength.
I was just saying, is there a distinction between blackface and black voice?
No, the vocal cords don't see color.
Okay,
that's right.
Okay, so
that's why they're inside of our body, Durden. Get it together. I'm getting too old for this shit. So I can do Lethal Weapon. You could do Danny Glover from Lethal Weapon.
You could. Oh, by the way, I did an audition for a Star Wars thing, and they wanted me to do the James Earl Jones part, and so I was doing, I did the audition, and I said, "Why don't you guys just hire James Earl Jones?" And they said, "Mr. Jones charges $30,000 an hour or any part thereof to do voice work." And I went, "Oh, good, great."
You remember what Lisa Gorlitsky said about him? He's like, "It's all a paycheck."
Lisa, it doesn't matter what I say. It is a paycheck.
So we have James Earl Jones.
Listen, I hope he lives a long time, but the moment he goes,
I'm talking
to my son. I type my own shoes once. Yes. Sorry, we'll riff all day, man. I'm sorry.
10 years after working on Pandemonium 2, you played the character Roger in The Boat Builder. You were in good company on that set as far as sabbaticals go. This was writer-director Arnold Grossman's second project following The Love Boat, which was done nearly 40 years prior. Can you tell us about what that project was like? What brought you back to film?
Well, first of all, that project was really fun and really warm and just a great environment. Arnold Grossman is a sweet man and super generous and super giving. And like all the old Jewish guys that I grew up with, he was like one of the clan, and it just felt normal and natural and comfortable to be with him. Now, this was a location shot, a location set, and I was supposed to play originally. I had a smaller role, and I was supposed to be opposite. What's her name? Malcolm in the Middle's mom.
Patricia. What do I want to know? That's Home Improvement.
Anyway, you know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
So I was supposed to play opposite her. Now, she is in the movie. She plays Christopher Lloyd's character's daughter, but she became disheartened with the film, and I can't speak to that. I don't know anything about it, but she dropped out of the film. So the producers call me and they're like, "Bad news. Your scene mate is out of the film, and so you're not going to get those scenes." I went, "Oh, bummer." Good news. You're going to get all her lines. I was like, "Oh, fantastic. That's great." So I show up on the set, and I'm working with Christopher, call me Chris, Lloyd. Okay, so now come on. This is Doc in Back to the Future. This is Uncle Fester. This is
Clue.
the guy. Yeah. And the guy who was on the set of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Okay, and Jim in Taxi, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little intimidated. And it's not comedy. We're not doing any comedy. So like I can't use those chops at all.
Mm-hmm.
So he and I had a little conversation prior to the cameras rolling. And I said, "Look, this is your movie. I'm in this 2 scenes for this. I'm like, please do whatever you want to do. I will follow you and I will react. I'll just do however you lead it. I'll just be there. And if we improvise, we improvise. If we do script, we do script. It's whatever you want to do. I'm totally down with that." And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool. Thanks. Good." And so this kind of gave us both permission to, we had it blocked out. Don't get me wrong. It was blocked. We shot it as written. But working with a guy like Christopher Lloyd, you have to give him some leeway because he's an engine unto himself. He'll do lots of fun stuff. And if you go with, if you resist it, it's like any improv. If you say no, that's the end of the improv. Mm-hmm. If you say yes, then you're moving forward with the scene. So it was really fun to work with him. And so we'd cut a scene, and then Arnold Grossman would come down out of his tent. "Great, that's great. That's fantastic." And then he put his arm over my shoulder. My father had already passed away at this point. He said, "I think your dad would have been proud of you today." And I was like, man, that is such a mensch thing to say. That it was great. So
yeah, it's awesome.
That was fun. It was really a fun set to work on. I enjoyed it.
Let me ask you this: by any chance, did you bump into a very young Jim Carrey before the world knew who he would be?
I didn't.
Okay.
I ran into a very young Robin Williams.
Robin! Now, can you tell this is Robin Williams right here from the film Death to Smoochie? This is him and his little get up from Death to Smoochie. This is Robin Williams right here. There we go.
I can see that, although you guys, of course, have put it on gallery view, speaker view, so it's very tiny. Yes. But Robin worked with my dad at College of Marin on stage. My dad was doing Fiddler on the Roof, and Robin was in that. So my dad's like, "Robin, come down to the restaurant. I'll give you a job." So Robin worked in my dad's restaurant, and I worked in my dad's restaurant. So Robin and I worked in the kitchen at the restaurant. And this was, he was still a serious drama student. This is before he went to Juilliard. And so I knew him then. Long story short, he went on to greatness. I took bit parts in movies. But here's one thing that I will say. Before Robin Williams was Mrs. Doubtfire, I was Mrs. Doubtfire. And the reason for that is I auditioned for it. He had another stand-up comic cast in the role, but he wanted to throw me something. So I became the makeup model. You know, they had a lot of appliances for him. So before he became Mrs. Doubtfire, they glued Mrs. Doubtfire to me, put me in the wig and took pictures. And so I was actually Mrs. Doubtfire first.
But see, I can see him playing that role because I was just thinking about it from all the voices that Robert Williams made. And of course, you being a voice actor yourself, I mean, I can see why they would even want you to do something like that. That's amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So I guess you guys have similar face structures?
Yeah, I think so. Or we did. He doesn't have much of one anymore, but yeah.
Yeah.
We're dark.
Yeah,
like,
no, but no,
okay.
Robin would appreciate that.
Oh,
He
yeah,
worked with the man.
absolutely would. Yeah.
Yeah. So no Jim Carrey, yes, Robin Williams.
Okay. I mean, hey, tomato, tomato.
All right. It looks like about 2 years ago, you began posting to YouTube for your short political commentary segments called What the Hell Just Happened. And we'll be sure to include links to that in the description too, so anybody that's interested can check it out. Were you always interested in politics, and what inspired you to start doing the show?
I was always interested in politics. I grew up in a political family. My parents were both very political and, you know, part of the anti-war movement and all of that. I grew up protesting in the streets. I've always paid attention. You know, I applauded during the Nixon resignation speech. You know, that's always been an interest of mine. However, doing the What the Hell Just Happened vlog really came about because each day of the Trump administration was some new insanity. And it was very hard to deal with. I was starting to get Trump fatigue, and so I'd go like to the gym every morning and work out, and all the people in the gym that I ran into, I'd go, you know what the hell just happened yesterday? And they'd go, no, tell us. So I'd go into this diatribe about what fucked up thing had happened, you know, in politics on any particular day. And I went, you know what? I'm going to stop bothering the people at the gym. And I'm just going to use some of my skills to put together these short videos, which hopefully most of the time at least are a little bit funny. And I could use some voice skills. I can use on-camera skills, whatever. And so that's kind of how it came about. It was just my way of trying to make sense of what seemed to be a horrible time in American politics, and just to be able to shout about it. And I didn't really care if anybody watched. I just,
it does. I could totally get that. Like needing, so information was coming so fast. There's not even information, but things would happen so fast. It wouldn't even have time to process what happened yesterday, or sometimes this morning before this afternoon. It was like, well, what the hell did he do now?
It's all, people would say it was so much information coming out that no matter what happened that morning, by the time you got home, it was already a new subject, and it was so, you couldn't keep up with it.
To make a project out of it where you're like, I guess, kind of putting the ducks in a row in a way where you could look at, okay, this is what's happening. That has to be cathartic.
All right, let me ask you this, because clearly we know, but it's kind of satire if we say it. So feel free to drill these points home. Could you talk about what goes into creating your own show and managing your own content?
Yeah, actually, so what I wanted to achieve, okay, let me make sure that I'm saying this the way I feel it. At first, I didn't give a shit, and I just wanted to say whatever I wanted to say. And I thought I could be funny doing it. And then as time went by, I sort of started to get a following, a little bit of a following. And I thought, okay, so this should be at least relevant in a more, you know, gestalt sense, in a bigger picture sense. I should at least make this be about something about us as Americans today. And so I started to kind of get a little bit better, I think, at the writing, and it got shorter and it became more to the point. It was less broad in terms of what I was approaching, and that's kind of been the evolution of what I've been doing is it's kind of gotten a little bit more brief and a little bit more pointed and a little bit more. I try to always be positive because I don't like this idea that we're, you know, the Bill Maher concept of we're all in a shit house going down, and I don't think that. I think that America has a lot of promise, but it's up to us to fulfill that promise. So I would try to do like a positive story at the end of each one in the early days. And that's so, and then a part of doing it at home and, you know, discovering green screens and discovering better mics, which I'm not using today because Zoom calls.
Zoom.
Anyway, so getting a little bit more technically proficient, not a lot. Getting a little better camera, getting a little better lighting. And so eventually I thought, well, try to make it look good, try to make it sound good, try to make the content resonant and still be happy and still try to make the occasional joke that people will appreciate. And I, you know, it feels good. So a funny thing happened on Facebook. I don't know if you guys experienced this either. All of a sudden I started to get followers, and then the followers would follow the followers, and then more followers. Now, and I'm not saying at any level even close to what real, you know, popular guys get, but it was, I got more followers than I had friends on Facebook, and I was like, wow, this is blowing my mind. What are these people? Why do these people give a shit about my ranting and my pontificating? But it sort of changed the way I approached it, because I'm like, oh, now I got a guy from Canada, and there's somebody in South Carolina, and there's somebody here and somebody there, and I can't be, you know, Bay Area specific. I can't be personally specific. It's got to be broader. So that's kind of what's come about as I've worked this thing through, and it's still fun. I'll do one. I'll leave the setup. No, I'll change the setup. I'll do one later today because I like doing it.
And speaking of lighting yourself and doing it, and we always see this, it's a camera trick, but we always know it because he wears glasses when I wear shades. Like we see you working that ring light in the background, man. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Do you do the editing as well?
Yeah, although I try to keep it as minimal as possible. If I can do a single take and run it straight through, I'll do that. I try to make it more about the content than the look. Although you guys, I don't know if it's you, Durden, or Torian
This is
rocks.
Edward. This is Edward Scissorhands himself. His hand, he cuts. He's the
as any the thing that an editor appreciates the most is a director who's also edited.
Right on.
Keep it nice and as tight as possible and limit the work as much.
Yeah. Nice and
neat. Yeah.
You guys rock that stuff. You're really good at it.
Thank you very much. I've been at it for a hot minute. I've turned down a lot of social
that was about one caveat to him when we talked about doing the show. Like I'll show up every day you need me. We can use my place, my studio, my equipment. I'm not editing. And I was like, I'm not. I'll do anything else. I'll get your food. I'll iron your clothes. I am not editing.
And stupid me was like, oh, yeah, no problem. So it would be like, we take 2 hours to shoot the episode. We take 4 hours to edit. 6 hours in and out, we got an episode in the can. It takes like 30 to 40 hours to edit an episode. And I should have known that. It's not my first rodeo.
It's not.
But you go into every one with this sense of naivety. It's the only way to jump in is to be a little bit naive about what you're getting into. Because if we knew how big the undertaking was,
you'd have never done it.
Yeah.
By the way, your Joker segment I thought was really good.
Thank you. We thought we were going to go to war over that, but then we still wound up back at the same place. So we really try to take an obscure look at it. So thank you so much for that, because that's one of our favorite episodes. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
And you keep trying to shift the spotlight, so I'm going to turn it back this way and say,
he's been doing it since he started. He's flipped it on us. It's good.
I appreciate political commentary. I watch a lot of it. That's to my wife's frustration. I watch like Sam Cedar. I love Sam Cedar. I watch
Rogan your podcast, Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan's not, he's apolitical. But I love your content. I think you like you said, you got what's important, in and out. It's tight, it's well lit,
And he
which
tries
is
to remain positive. Everybody on the internet is just flunking to just clickbait, clickbait, clickbait. Nope, that needs to be some good fucking content. And
that's an
that's-
undertaking to remain positive in the world of politics. That's why when we created this show, we specifically, like, it was kind of, we had like the adverse reaction to the reason why you started your show. We started this to escape all that. Like, we are being bombarded by this information everywhere we look. We need, like, we
safe
go to
space.
movies to escape. So let's just do a show. Let's just put something out there on the internet where people can come with us and escape for 2
Right.
hours.
And until we do Enemy of the State, we don't have to worry about politics.
But we're gonna get political. We're gonna break the rule, and the show is gonna get political for one quick question, and then I promise we'll be right back to movies. But what would you say are the 3 most important issues that are happening right now that people should be paying attention to?
I think the 3 most important issues in our time today is the actual decline of democracy. Sorry, see,
There it
for whom
was.
the bell
See?
tolls.
Time's up.
See, that's it. Decline of democracy, and people, they think that this is a resilient state, and that we were born into democracy and will always be in democracy because that's where we are in America. It's not true, and it could decline, and we could lose it. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the prevalence of willful ignorance, and by that I mean, like, and look, I don't want to piss off all of you QAnon followers. I love you guys. You're awesome.
You're hilarious.
But it's ignorant, and it's, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, a third of a certain group of people think the earth is flat. There's a lot of willful ignorance. People are not taking vaccines for the COVID-19 virus. Why? Okay. So that's number 2, the prevalence of willful ignorance. Number 3 is, most important, is a feeling of powerlessness to do something about all that. We have the power. We are the power.
Mhm.
This country, the people are the sovereign state, not anybody else. So that to me is, like, overwhelmingly the 3 most important things going on right now politically. Now let's leave that realm and talk about movies. Damn it.
Well,
I
I just have a follow-up.
Oh no, you promised him that we would go right back.
Well,
you have to keep your promise.
They know I don't keep promises.
Okay. All right. You're
Well,
not
you could
gonna
be a
get invited to
politician
do a
then.
show. Oh, hey!
Whoa.
The willful ignorance thing is so true. Like, I always find it funny. Like, I even thought when I asked you, I've always been political. It's funny when people are like, "Oh, I don't like to think about politics." Like, I don't give a shit what you like to think about. The politics are happening. So, like, you not thinking about it doesn't make it not happen. So it's affecting unless it affects me, everything political affects you. So, and the QAnon shit, I have a personal spite towards them because I'm an old school conspiracy theorist.
Right.
Bigfoot,
Me too.
aliens, and now the conspiracy theorist title has been just
Usurped, taken from us.
Yeah. So it's very frustrating.
But I like how he wrapped it up though, because again, we've heard the statement. This is how we segue back to the movies. Power to the people. Power to the people. Like he said, the people have the power. There it is. Boom.
Yeah.
Side segue. Boom.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, is it me?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Segue.
Oh, no, it does say segue. You're right.
It does say segue.
Yeah. All right. So we're
Okay.
going to go ahead, just like Ford and Dodge. We're going to switch gears right back into our wheelhouse and ask, if you were going to be locked in a room for 1 year and you were allowed to bring one film, not that you were in, just any film in the world, what movie would you watch every day if you had to?
Okay. Wow. Well, come on. I mean, it has to be Saturday Night Fever, right? I mean, come on. What else?
Okay.
Okay. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, okay. This is an inherently unfair question. And
True.
the fact that you could ask it is an affront to any real film buffs. No, I'm just kidding. What a better way to ask, what you're actually asking me is, like, what films do I go to? Which ones do I watch over and over again? And why do I do that? Even if it's one film, which one film?
We're trying to avoid people saying, "Oh, well, my favorite film is Casablanca." Like, no, I want to hear about Can't Hardly Wait. I want to hear about, scary movies, the movies that are the comfort movies for us.
Well, okay, so the question is, we'd say what genre would you like to watch every day for a year, or what director, what what auteur would you like to watch his or her films every day? And so let me just bring it down to two films. And I know, Casablanca. No, I'm not going to do Casablanca. But what I will do is I will say that The Maltese Falcon is one of my go-to films, and I'll watch it over and over. I've watched it dozens of times. And the reason I love it so much is it took a genre and it elevated it to a perfection. It's noir, done right. Every aspect of that is completely watchable and memorable. So, yes, it's an old movie, Maltese Falcon.
Okay.
You have a comment? Because I have a
No,
second.
no, I don't have a. I don't. I was just gonna say I've not seen it, but I plan to.
Okay, well, you should see it because it's an astounding movie. And basically, John Huston, who directed it, took the book and lifted it, all the dialogue out of the book, and added camera directions and entrances and exits. That's it. So it's great. The other movie that I would watch over and over again, and that I always watch over and over again, is Godfather 1 and 2. And the reason is it took a genre that was established and it elevated that to operatic quality. It became something much more than Mario Puzo ever thought of, and Francis Coppola. By the way, Coppola lives in the city, and I have some personal Coppola stories, but I won't get to that. But he shot the Godfather 1 and 2 as a single thing, and then Paramount was like, we're not going to release a 4-hour movie. You're insane. And then, of course, they released both.
Yes.
Subsequently.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So yeah, see the Maltese Falcon, and maybe before you anyway.
Yes.
And then Godfather, because it elevated an old genre to something beyond what it was. So that's my answer to your. And I love film.
That.
I love film.
Awesome. Yeah. I can tell. I mean, no, those are two. I've heard of the Maltese Falcon. Everyone says I should watch it. I've not watched it, so I guess I'm going to take your advice.
You should
watch it and get some, and then I'm going to watch it.
Oh, well,
yes.
That's
Yes.
You should do both.
Yes.
For the aspiring actors out there, what advice would you give them?
I would say if you want to have a career as an actor, get a lot of experience, learn the craft, do a lot of work for free, do stage work. But the most important thing to remember, all you young kids out there, get off my lawn. Here come the cops now. They're going to take me away. Oh my God. Can you hear that? The most important thing.
All that positivity you putting on their show, they're coming to get your ass.
They're coming to get my ass, is right. Most important thing, it's called show business. It's not called show art. It's show business. So when someone hires you to do a gig of any kind, and I don't care how small it is or how big it is, show up prepared, know what you're going to do, be good at it. Don't fuck it up. Don't waste anybody's time, because it's show business. And that's one piece of advice I'd give any actor.
That's perfect. It's strong. It's very strong. For the general population out there, what is your best piece of advice? It doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to be about film. Just people in society in general, one piece of advice.
I would say practice kindness and compassion and assume the best in people, but don't tolerate assholes, ever.
That's yes. And definitely don't vote for them.
Hey. Definitely don't vote for them. Oh my God. But we're not getting political. I'm just saying, be kind and compassionate. That's the main thing.
Well, if you do want to get political, be sure to check out What the Hell Just Happened. Well, again, the link will be in the description. And before we go, do you have any parting words that you'd like to share, just in general?
Sure. I would say this, like the famous New York Yankee catcher Yogi Berra, this game that we play is 40% half mental. So be prepared for it and get in the game.
Hey, Martin, thank you so much for taking time. This has been, I truly, we talk to a lot of people and it never gets boring, but when you can usually tell when someone has a true passion for the art. And I would love, if we ever get a chance, we're going to be checking out your show. If you ever need an atheist and a guy that is half and half, just let me know. We'll come on the show.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciated meeting you, and I love to be interviewed. It's a real honor, and
Yes.
great success with your show. I hope you get lots of followers and influencers and make money and all that thing that happens
Yes.
for people.
Hey, me and you're going to do a voice get one day together. Me and you're going to voice it up, man.
I'm down with that, man. Whenever it's there, I'm there.
All right, brother. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Be safe and peace and love to your family. Thank you.
Thanks. You too.
Have a good rest of your weekend.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.